Hello and welcome back to Nathan Bell's podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe and share with your friends. Today, Nate would like to talk about terraforming Mars.
Okay, today I'm going to talk about terraforming Mars. I've spoke briefly about this in other videos, but this week I've come across this article in The Conversation about terraforming Mars. I do like reading The Conversation. The Conversation's a very good source and it's free. I recommend reading The Conversation for good science and political philosophy and scientific philosophy. So it's a very interesting article in The Conversation. It's targeted at kids. It's the kids series on The Conversation, and a 16-year-old child has asked The Conversation, is it possible that one day we could turn Mars into an Earth-like planet? And one of The Conversation scientists has written an article in response. I will quote the article throughout this talk. But just to talk a bit about what I know from what I've read about terraforming Mars, the article says, it would take centuries to terraform Mars into a livable planet. And when we talk about terraforming a planet, that means taking a dead planet like Mars and giving it an atmosphere and creating an environment, an ecosystem on the planet so there are plants growing and so the animals can live. And so, obviously at the moment there's nothing on Mars. Mars is desolate. There's very little atmosphere. There's a very thin atmosphere. It says in the article, Mars's atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide and is 1% as thick as Earth's atmosphere. And there's obviously very little oxygen in Mars's atmosphere, if any. So terraforming Mars would mean to transform Mars into a planet with an atmosphere like Earth, where plant life could grow, and where animals could live, and there could be lush vegetation. And a thriving ecosystem. It is hypothetically possible to do this, but it would, as the article says, it would take centuries to achieve this. So really the thing to understand is it's not like we wouldn't send humans there to do this. We would send robots there to do this. So and NASA, it says in the article, NASA is developing autonomous technologies to do this. But what we would do is we would send a ship full of robots, machines, autonomous machines, and they would land on Mars and they would begin to go around doing the necessary tasks to establish an ecosystem on Mars. And the robots would set that up for us. Then the humans would come afterwards, and the humans would go there once the lush vegetated environment was already established. But the article talks about ways that we could create an atmosphere on Mars that could allow life to grow. And it says one thing we could do is we could use nuclear explosions to trigger volcanoes in Mars's landmass, and those volcanoes would then help to create an atmosphere on Mars. But that the article says would leave behind a lot of radiation, so it's not a very good idea. Because it would leave behind a lot of radiation which would pollute the environment and make it dangerous to live. So another suggestion the article gives is that we could redirect asteroids towards Mars, and the collision of those asteroids, I think it says the collision of those asteroids would help make the volcanoes active. Hang on. Anyway, it says that the collision of those asteroids would help create an atmosphere, and it would also, the collision of those asteroids which have water on them would also put more water on the planet, which would go into creating an atmosphere as well. So there are ways that we can create an atmosphere on Mars. I suppose it says you'd have to redirect quite a lot of asteroids to crash into the Martian surface to do this. So all of these schemes are quite... they're very complicated, very difficult things to do that would take an enormous amount of effort to achieve. And as the article says, it would take a huge amount of money, which that amount of money probably isn't going to be spent by governments on this project anytime soon, because that money isn't available to dedicate to terraforming Mars because it's not an urgent priority. But the other thing about Mars is Mars doesn't have a magnetic field, and magnetic fields protect against solar radiation and the bombardment of radiation that comes from space. The article says there are ways to create a magnetic field on Mars, but that those technologies are pretty speculative at this stage. It's nice to know there are ways that we can create a magnetic field on Mars, because a magnetic field is very important to creating a livable environment on the planet, because as I said, the magnetic field protects against solar radiation and other radiation coming from space. But as I said, all of these things will probably be done by robots. And so it's not like humans are going to go there and do this and set up this livable environment. Robots are going to go there and set up this livable environment for us, and then we'll come along after the robots have established the environment, and then we'll get cozy on the planet and start living there. The article also points out that Mars's soil isn't nutrient rich, so there's not a lot of nutrient rich soil on Mars. Mars's soil is quite poisonous and toxic, actually. It doesn't say it's poisonous, it says it has bad chemicals in the soil, so we'd have to re-engineer Mars's soil so that plants could grow, and that's obviously going to be a big mission, but there are ways, again, that we can do this. So the question is, I suppose, is it worth doing this? Is it worth all this effort to terraform Mars so that it's a livable planet? I do believe it is the course of our species to stretch out into the solar system. I don't think it's an urgent priority to do this. It's not like we can relocate. The planet's very overpopulated at the moment, Earth, but it's not like we can relocate billions of people onto another planet. So it's not, because it's too difficult to do that. So it's not like vegetating Mars and creating a livable ecosystem is a solution to overpopulation on Earth. It's not, because even if we could re-engineer Mars to be livable, it's not practical to relocate 2 billion people, say, to Mars. That would be too difficult. So it's not a solution to that problem. So vegetating and creating a livable ecosystem on Mars doesn't really solve any problems on Earth. It doesn't really, all it achieves is for humanity to be able to say, oh, well, now we've transformed a planet and now we live on Mars as well. But I do think we should strive towards these things. We can do this. It's not an urgent priority, but we should do it, because there's a whole solar system waiting out there for us to explore. Why not be explorers? We should be a scientific species, and we should explore, and we should go out and be ambitious, as I've said before in videos, and go out to other planets and explore other planets and populate other planets. And we can come to a point, I believe, where we populate more than one world in this solar system. And I think we're going to end up in many centuries having terraformed moons of Jupiter and Mars terraformed, and I'm particularly excited about moons of Jupiter being terraformed and colonies in the asteroid belt. And I see that we should do that, because I believe there's a broader cosmos out there waiting for us to come and participate in the broader cosmos. We don't have to be limited in our thinking just to the Earth. We can go out and be a part of the broader cosmos. And I think that's exciting, and I think we should do that, because I think it's a part of the evolutionary path, provided we don't destroy ourselves first, that we continue to stretch out and go out and be a part of the broader universe. Because I think there's this big broad universe out there. There's this galaxy, there's the solar system, the galaxy, and the broader universe, and we should aim to participate in the broader universe and the cosmos and be a part of the whole universe rather than just one planet. And if our technology can facilitate that, then let's do it. It sounds like a great idea. So why not do it? I think it's exciting. And I think we will get there in many centuries, and we will do this. I don't think we're going to find other life in this solar system. We may find some basic life, microbial life in this solar system. But I do want to say, when we go to other planets, we shouldn't... It's like in the movie Avatar, we go to the planet and we basically decimate the Aboriginal species. We can't do that. We have to say that we're not going to go in, if we do come across an Aboriginal species, we're not going to come in and decimate their native culture and just, because that's the repeat of when the British invaded Australia and decimated the indigenous cultures. We can't do that. We have to have a rule like in Star Trek that we don't do that. We don't intervene with native cultures. But, where there's microbial life and where there's only basic life, we can come in and we can help it along. And where there's a dead planet, where there's nothing happening there, the article raises the question, is it ethical to terraform Mars and to come in and transform a dead planet? And I say, yes, it is. Why not? It's wasted space. It's space that isn't being used. It's space that isn't doing anything. I see no ethical issue with coming into Mars, a desolate planet where nothing is happening, and there's no life, and it's a dead world. Why not transform it? I think that's actually a good thing to do. I think it's I wouldn't say it's the ethical thing to do to transform Mars, but I say it's a positive thing. It would be a positive thing to take a dead planet and bring life to it. And it's like I've said before about the engineers in Prometheus. They do this. This is their art. This is what they do as art. They go in and they engineer dead worlds and they give them life. And I say that's a positive thing to do. It's a good thing to do, and we should do that. So I say it is ethical to terraform Mars and other dead worlds, moons of Jupiter or whatever, and I think we should do this. I don't see that there's any ethical issue with it. So that's my answer to, is it unethical to terraform a dead planet? I say yes, you should. It's wasted space. There's nothing happening there. We're not damaging any native life, so we should do that, and that's okay. It's a good thing. It's a positive thing. So there's some thoughts about terraforming Mars. Read the article in the conversation about terraforming Mars, came up this week. You should be able to look it up, and drop a comment in the comment section about what you think about terraforming dead worlds.